So Julie, I know you've been teaching this for a while, and I see you've got these little materials that you take with you just to make your job a little easier. So do you want to tell us a little bit about those and what you call them and how you use them?
Sure. A couple of years ago, I actually produced what I call the teacher tip cards. Mm-hmm. So when I have my classroom set up, I'll always have my rules poster, and that sits up in the corner. It's a big A3 rules poster. And then alongside it, I use these cards. And these are designed to actually remind the kids of the key things they've got to do, putting their cards in order, saying their moves aloud. We want them having the conversation about maths that is lacking. So we remind these. We then come down to talking about the moves.
Oh, so the different colour. Okay, yep.
So when we're talking about takes, one of the things I've discovered with Numero is it's not just about the maths. If we can teach them the process, even those children that say they don't like maths because they like playing a game, if they follow the process, we're kind of forcing them to do the maths. It will come by default. So we have our processes. So when they're taking, they look to see if they can match, they look to see if they can join and take, and they'll look to see if they can get the most cards. So we have our takes. We have our builds, which is another move where we want them to look at the processes involved. Okay. We have our discards, which is a hugely important part of Numero, to make sure they're looking in the right order so that they're throwing out cards that will help them on future turns rather than randomly throwing out a card that doesn't give them anything going forward. So these are all the tips that when I do workshops, I do talk to these, but I use these as like my teacher toolkit in the classroom. And part of that same toolkit is actually demonstration cards. So I can set up cards in the centre that will have certain cards, and then I'll pull out my big demonstration cards, okay? And so I'll put up my cards that I want in the centre, so all these cards could be sitting in the centre, and then I would have, obviously, in a separate part, I would have my hand, and I'd have my 5 cards in my hand. Okay. And it allows teachers to demonstrate on the big whiteboard at the front and allow kids to come out and move them around and actually manipulate them themselves.
So I've seen that you've often put magnets or those little strip magnets on here or something.
I just put one in the top corner, one in the bottom diagonal corner, and that's all you need. You don't have to plaster it, just one in each of the 2 corners, and then that's what I use to demonstrate. And I use these for all my demonstration. I use them at my competitions. That's how we use them. And to be honest, I also use these in the early years without magnets and play with pre-primary on the floor.
It's interesting because I taught a visually impaired student and she was still able to play by accessing that. So that was pretty
And
neat.
Talking visually impaired, I've also had students actually braille these cards.
Wow.
I've seen that done many times.
That's
so these
amazing.
cards are used having been brailled in their little braille machines.
Yeah, okay.
So it can certainly be used there too.
Okay, well thanks for those sort of helpful tips because for trying to get this going, it's really handy to, you can see your teaching background shining out here and look, saving time and getting us ready to play. So
Beautiful.
thanks, Julie.